Hi everyone, this is Scott, the multimedia maven, and I'm here today for an issue that's very personal to me, HIV/AIDS. My sister died of AIDS complications, and I know for many of you here in America, especially Black America, this is a very personal issue. According to the Kaiser Family Foundation, nearly 40% of Americans know someone living with HIV/AIDS, has died of AIDS complications, or has tested positive for HIV. This rises to nearly 60% among Black Americans. So this is an issue that hits close to home for many people in the country. Too many people today are contracting HIV/AIDS. Stats are on the rise for those most at risk, and there is still fear and stigma that we must end. Today we explore the following question: what does it mean to be greater than AIDS? And what can we do together to turn the tide of this disease? The Greater Than AIDS movement is about hope, unity, and empowerment. The campaign was created to increase knowledge and understanding about HIV/AIDS and confront the stigma surrounding the disease. Today we find out why and how celebrities are lending their voice to this cause and how we can be greater than AIDS. Join me, Scott, as I speak with celebrities who are using their VIP status to shine a spotlight on HIV/AIDS as a part of the Greater Than AIDS initiative. For these artists, HIV/AIDS is personal. They exemplify what it means to be greater than AIDS by bringing attention to a too often silent issue. Throughout this program, I want you to think about what you can do to be greater than AIDS. First, we will speak to Phill Wilson, President and CEO of the Black AIDS Institute, a co-founding partner of the Greater Than AIDS campaign, to tell us the facts about HIV/AIDS in America and why the disease deserves our attention. Along with Phill, there is Vanessa Williams, an actress, film director, and model, as well as Patrik-Ian Polk, film director, producer, screenwriter, singer, and actor. Later, I will have a one-on-one interview with Jamar Rogers, the amazing singer from the television show The Voice, who had the courage to tell us his story of living with HIV and overcoming drug addiction on national television. Vanessa Williams, Patrik-Ian Polk, and Jamar Rogers are a part of the Greater Than AIDS campaign and the Black AIDS Institute's Hollywood Task Force on AIDS. First, Phill, the Black AIDS Institute, together with the Kaiser Family Foundation, launched Greater Than AIDS. Tell us why Greater Than AIDS campaign was needed.
Well, we are now 32 years into the AIDS epidemic. When we launched Greater Than AIDS, we were like at 28 or 29 years into the epidemic. And in the history of the epidemic, there had never been a national social marketing campaign targeting Black Americans. And the reason why that is so important is that no matter how you look at the epidemic in America today, through the lens of gender or sexual orientation or age or level of education or socioeconomic class or region of the country where you live, Black people are disproportionately impacted. We're roughly 50% of the estimated 1.2 million Americans living with HIV. We're roughly 50% of the 58,000 new HIV/AIDS cases every year, and we're roughly 50% of the annual HIV/AIDS related deaths. And yet there not been a national social marketing campaign targeting Black folks. And what Greater Than AIDS is about, it's about saying to folks in our communities, number one, that this is about us. It's saying that not only is it about us, that is devastating our communities, but the good news is, as has been the case with everything else that we have engaged in the history of our people, that we're resilient. And that we are, in fact, greater than AIDS. We are greater than the Middle Passage. We are greater than slavery. We are greater than Reconstruction. We are greater than Jim Crow. We are greater than Hurricane Katrina. And together, we're greater than AIDS as well. And that's what the campaign is all about.
The Black AIDS Institute created the Hollywood Task Force on AIDS to provide a platform for celebrities to motivate people to be greater than AIDS. Tell us why celebrities are so integral to the Greater Than AIDS campaign.
Well, celebrities are important to the Greater Than AIDS campaign, but I think that bringing voice is important, period. The messenger matters. It's important for Black people, wherever we are, to see folks that look like us, to see folks that are talking about this issue. Now, AIDS is terribly stigmatizing. And to have folks that we see in film or on television or on the radio or folks we listen to, you know, in music-wise, to talk about these issues, it really empowers folks to talk about it themselves, to talk about it amongst themselves. And that's critically important in our community.
Okay.
And also, the celebrity community needed to be educated about how critically the impact of AIDS and HIV was having on our community. I mean, when we gathered and galvanized all those artists and celebrities to come, they were shocked at the statistics and really willing to do whatever in their power to get the word out, to get people tested, and to really be a part of that messaging.
And what we found with our Black Hollywood Task Force on AIDS is that the whole notion about the village, it really shows up there. You know, when the artists come together, this is something that they feel passionate about. Now, this is something that they want to do, and they understand. Because the truth of the matter is, today, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, you have been touched by HIV in the Black communities. We've all been affected.
Definitely. Now on to Vanessa Williams. Let's take a closer look at the HIV/AIDS crisis facing women in the United States. Women have been affected by HIV/AIDS since the beginning of the epidemic, an impact that has grown over time. Today, more than a quarter of Americans living with HIV/AIDS are women. Black women make up 60% of the new HIV cases among women. Vanessa, you were the spokeswoman for the National Women and Girls HIV/AIDS Awareness Day this year. What specific issues do you think are unique to the women in the fight against AIDS?
Well, just that statistic is unacceptable. You know, that we should be 60% of the new HIV cases among women. And the issues that Black women face are an issue of empowerment, feeling empowered, feeling responsible, feeling able to really celebrate and recognize their sexuality and really realize that in the bedroom they have much more power than thought. You know, I mean, given the choice between, use a condom or go home, dude is usually going to put the condom on. And if we're talking about life and death situations, if they don't, then they get to go home. So I'm about being a part of anything that's going to empower Black women and girls to really celebrate who they are, our beauty, and really our sexual health. And being responsible for who gets close to you is vitally important with regard to that.
And do you believe that that statistic relates to the fact that in the Black community, there is a misconception that it's a gay disease, and that
absolutely
women,
I mean, we don't think of it as a heterosexual. We have no idea. As I was saying, among the celebrity community and among the community at large, there's so much stigma attached. It's thought of as a gay disease. And that straight women, Black women, aren't susceptible to it, and as these statistics bear out, that is absolutely not the case. In fact, if you are having sex, you are in the risk group to contracting HIV and AIDS. Anyone and everyone, and particularly women of color, Black women. So yes, we have those hurdles to overcome, as well as just really being free enough with our conversation about sex and really are feeling empowered to take control of that situation.
You have a one-woman show called Feet on the Ceiling, which features a HIV positive character. How did you come up with her, and how does your audience respond to that?
Well, in Feet on the Ceiling, the character talks about a plethora of her sexual experiences and about what it means to come from, it's a coming of age story, a sexual coming of age story, where the woman, my character, explores a host of different experiences that led her from, being a teenager in the vestibule, exploring those new feelings, to full on first sexual experiences and orgasms and all that kind of stuff. And in the quest for love and becoming a woman, she comes in contact with an HIV positive person. And actually that person passes away. And that was taken from my research, and because it's written and performed by me. And that response to it is so amazing. I mean, people are really just spellbound in those moments when the play gets to that, and they really understand in the context of how it could happen to a person like this character, how it could happen in their own experience. And so it's really vitally important that piece in the play, as specifically as it talks about AIDS. But as I said, because AIDS among women is about really being, or preventing AIDS and HIV in our community and among women is about really being empowered and responsible for yourself. The play really speaks to that. And so it sort of encompasses all of that in the context of it.
And I had the pleasure of seeing the play, and people talk about the part of the play that's explicitly about HIV. But one of the things that I said to Vanessa the first time I saw it was that the entire play is about HIV, because the entire play is about this particular black woman, but basically all black women, experiencing their sexuality, taking ownership of their sexuality, and celebrating their sexuality. Now, so from the earliest point in deciding that you can have these feelings and you can acknowledge that I have these feelings, to the point of saying, no, I want to be sexual in this fashion, or in fact saying that I want to experience my orgasm in this fashion. Now, all of those decisions along the way that this character that Vanessa has brilliantly describes and presents. Now, all of those decisions are helpful decisions towards creating an empowered black woman that can protect herself no matter what the encounter is.
Now on to Patrik-Ian Polk. According to the U.S. Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, 1 in 5 gay and bisexual men in 21 major cities today are HIV positive, and nearly half of those who are don't even know it. Today, gay men are the only risk group for which rates are on the rise, and for gay black men, those rates are even more staggering. You're an American film director, producer, screenwriter, singer, and actor who is openly gay and noted for films that explore the LGBT experience. Your latest movie, The Skinny, which I starred in, tell us what inspired you to do the film, and how does the film address HIV?
I really wanted to do, I'm known for my TV series Noah's Ark, which explores the lives of 4 adult, decidedly adult gay men in their 30s and 40s. And I kind of wanted to do something that addressed younger characters. I felt like it was important that the younger kids, the kids in college and just in their early 20s, that they get to see themselves on screen. So that was my original idea. And I thought, as gay men and women, we have these party circuits, pride events and festivals around the year in major cities, and people travel to these events. All the kids travel to these events. It's fun. It's like spring break. And, there's lots of sex at these things. There's, lots of drinking and drugs and all of that. And I wanted to explore, in sort of a fun way, that experience, and at the same time address some of these serious issues, because I find that, we can preach to the kids all we want to. We can wag our fingers and show them our PSAs and say get tested and say do this and say wear condoms, but nothing affects young people more than seeing characters on a screen who look like them, who talk like them, who act like them, going through these things, dealing with these things in very real and realistic ways. So to have characters, in the movie, we have characters who, there's a young character named Sebastian, played by Blake Youngfountain, who is a virgin and planning to lose his virginity this weekend. And one of his friends who's in medical school in the film stands him in front of, a poster about STDs with some graphic, very disgusting graphic images of what can happen, and says, as you embark upon this, your first sexual experience, you need to be aware that if you make the wrong decisions, this kind of thing can happen to you. So look at it. And then later in the film, we deal with some serious issues. What can happen when you allow your judgment to be impaired by certain drugs, and you don't have the ability you lose the ability to say yes or no, or make informed decisions about what kind of sex you're going to have. And then you wake up the next morning and you don't know what you did. Right. And then you have to deal with that. and we address something that a lot of young people don't know about, which is PEP, post-exposure prophylaxis, which is if you do feel like you have come in contact with HIV and you catch it within a short span of time, you can go to a doctor or an emergency room and request emergency post-exposure prophylaxis treatment that can greatly reduce the chances of you contracting HIV.
And that
So
consists of medication, HIV medication.
Right,
Okay.
30 days of HIV drugs, and I don't know the exact statistics, but it's overwhelmingly likely that these drugs prevent you from contracting it if you have come in contact, and they catch it within a short time period. So just knowing things like that, and hearing the young people who've seen the film who had no clue that this even existed.
Was it a relief for them, Patrick, to hear that?
It is, and they're very appreciative. I've had so many people say, I so appreciate you putting these messages in the film because I had no idea about these things. So it's just, I think, entertainment has the power. Yes, it's fun and we want to kiki and laugh and all of that, but entertainment, so more than anything else, has the power to really reach young minds because they pay attention to that stuff. So I just feel like it's always important to include these messages in.
You really educate. You really educate with the film.
And there's actually a character that contracted HIV, correct? In the
yes, we kind of hint at the end of the movie that one of the characters is HIV positive, and in the next film we explore his experience in dealing with his new diagnosis and his new status, and how he deals with trying to, keeping it from his friends or whether to tell his friends, and taking his medication, and how he negotiates dating as an HIV positive young man, all of these things. And he's a very, purposely a very attractive, sexy, sexually active, fine as hell character. I thought it was very important to show that. Yeah.
What does HIV/AIDS mean to you personally? What is your personal connection?
I graduated from high school in the late 80s, and I remember when I was a young teenager, you certainly heard about HIV and AIDS. I grew up in a small town in Mississippi, and as the years wore on, it just became this thing that used to be way out there that you heard about in, San Francisco and LA and New York. And then as the years went on, it just got closer and closer and closer to home. Got to the point where I was hearing about, when I was in college, I'd hear about, oh, do you remember, I'd have friends from back home because I went to school out of state. Do you remember so-and-so? So-and-so's friend that you met this one time at Jackson State University. Oh, they died. Do you remember this person that you met here? This person died. Do you remember our high school classmate, so-and-so? He died. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. You hear about more and more people. And now, with these latest statistics that tell us as many as 40 to 50% of Black gay men in this country could be HIV positive, it's just, I know too many people who are positive. And the good news is the drugs, are much better now, and people are living healthy, long lives, but it's still growing. It's still growing. So someone asked me at a Q&A the other day, will you always deal with HIV and AIDS issues in your film? Will these issues always be in your film? And they kind of said it in a somewhat negative way, as though maybe they were tired of hearing about it. And I said, look, as long as it's an issue in our community. Then it will be dealt with, period, of course. If as many as 40 to 50% of us are HIV positive, then yes, it will be dealt with, and it needs to be.
And now this question is for everyone. What does it mean for you to be greater than AIDS?
Well, like Phill said, as a community, as of Black people, African Americans in this country, we have overcome so many things. And so greater than AIDS to me means, as echoing what Phill said, is that we can overcome this, that it is not greater than us, that we are greater than AIDS. And what that means is us all coming together to spread the word, to be involved, and to really demystify, destigmatize, and really sit in the solution. And so I'm grateful to be a part of it, to know Patrick and you and Phill, and be a part of this movement that will end it in our lifetime.
And I feel like, to echo what Vanessa just said, and Phill, we're all faced with adversity, and horrible things happen in the world, and we have health crises and natural disasters, and stuff happens, and we are a very resilient community. We have dealt with so many things throughout the history of this country. And, what I love about the Black AIDS Institute is it sends a message of, we don't have to wait for the mainstream health organizations and government organizations to swoop in and save us. We can do this ourselves in our communities, with our own voices and our own power. And that's what being greater than AIDS means to me. It means using my gifts, my talents, my abilities, my resources to help in the fight against this disease in our community. And that means I am greater than AIDS.
For me, Greater Than AIDS really talks about our ability to end this thing. What a lot of people don't realize is that we have the tools to end the AIDS epidemic. Now, that question has been asked and answered. Can we end AIDS? Yes, we can. The question is, will we? Now, will we use those tools effectively, efficiently, compassionately, expeditiously? And to be greater than AIDS means that together, we come together and we use the tools at our disposal in ways that we have not in the past, and we actually end this thing. And as Patrick says, that we end it in our lifetime. That's what it means to be greater than AIDS, and we can do that if each and every one of us does our part. Now, each and every one of us has a role to play, no matter who you are, no matter where you are. You have a role to play in ending the AIDS epidemic. And if we do that, if we come together in that fashion, we will make it so.
Phill, where can we find more information about the AIDS Institute and the Greater Than AIDS Project?
Well, you can go to blackaids.org to get information about the Black AIDS Institute. You can go to greaterthan.org to get involved in the Greater Than AIDS campaign directly. And we have programs all over the country. It's likely that no matter where you are, if you're listening to this radio show, you can get involved in either the Greater Than AIDS campaign in your local communities. You can reach out to us on Facebook or Twitter, and we can send you materials. The Black AIDS Institute is doing programs now in some 35 different cities around the country, either through our treatment programs or our mobilization programs, all of those activities. Next month, a remarkable event is happening in this country. In July, for the first time in over 22 years, the International AIDS Conference is coming to America.
Oh, wow.
And this is a huge conference, over 25,000 delegates, 3,000 journalists, talking about everything that you might want to know, anything and everything that you need to know or want to know about HIV and AIDS will be addressed at that conference. And there's a part of the conference that's completely free. It's called the Global Village, and even if you don't register for the conference, there are activities, there are seminars, there are performances, there are films, there are all these things where you can get information that you need to get. And particularly given the demographics of the AIDS epidemic, we are hoping now that this conference now is going to be inundated with Black folks and with people of color and marginalized folks and women to talk about this issue.
Given that it's in Washington, D.C., we're hoping that the folk come out.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, thank you guys so much for chatting with me today. And indeed, we are greater than AIDS.
Well, thank you, Ms. B.
We all love our reality shows, especially singing competitions. And we are joined today by Jamar Rogers, who has been on American Idol and most recently got very far on The Voice. He not only won over people's hearts with his voice, but also his story. He disclosed that he is HIV positive on national television and also discussed overcoming his addiction to crystal meth. What is it like for you now, knowing that everyone knows you're HIV positive because of your decision to disclose it on national television?
I think it's so funny because for so many years I was so scared to actually share my status. I was afraid of what people would think. I was afraid of the stigma that was associated with it. And when I finally, I call it coming clean. When I decided to finally come clean, I've gotten the the biggest reward back. So many people, if they meet me on the street, the first thing they do is hug me. And I've actually had people who are living with HIV tell me that I am the first person that they've ever told their status to. And so I find it very humbling, and I find it empowering at the same time, because there's no more skeletons left, like this is it, take it or leave it. And I really believe that by being my true, authentic self, that I can do my part in eradicating stigma and changing people's perceptions on HIV as a whole.
Tell us about the moment that you were told you were HIV positive.
I had it's so funny because I would say about 2 to 3 months before I found out I was positive, I had decided to quit using crystal meth, and I had left where I was living to get away from familiar people, places, and things, and then I got really sick all of a sudden, and went into the emergency room and found out it was pneumonia, then found out it was HIV. And I'm now divorced, but at the time I was engaged to get married, and she held my hand throughout that entire process. I felt like it was the end for me, but at the same time, something within me wouldn't give up. Something within me said, I will not die from this. I remember saying that, I will not die from this. And I've carried that like mantra with me this entire time. And I can now say that I've been undetectable for 5 years. And that's by the grace of God, and also by taking my meds every single day, and loving on people, man, showing compassion. That keeps you healthy. That goes a long way.
What does it mean to you to be greater than AIDS?
I believe that being greater than AIDS means knowing your purpose. And what I tell people, there's maybe people that are HIV negative, they can't, relate to every aspect of my story, but who can't relate to making mistakes and having to pay the consequences of those mistakes. And so what I try to tell people is that you are greater than whatever mistakes you've made. You're greater than whatever happens to you. It's not about merely surviving, it's about thriving. And that if you would just adopt a victor's mentality instead of a victim's mentality, listen, crazy things happen to us every day. It's about how we grow from it, and it's about how we show love. So what greater than AIDS means to me is this does not define me. I've been HIV positive now for almost 7 years, but I'm a singer, I'm an artist, I'm an activist, I'm a lover. I have so many other great things going for me. This does not dictate my future. It only all it does is makes me love my life even more.
I want you to elaborate a little bit on why was it important for you to go public with your story?
Well, I decided a few years back that I needed to live for something greater than myself. I have been doing this music thing for a few years, and I got the realization that living for Jamar Rogers wasn't going to get me very far. But once I began to volunteer with these great organizations in New York, like God's Love We Deliver and the Gay Men's Health Crisis, I began to see very human faces of people living with HIV, and it began to lower my own stigma. And then I began to realize that every single one of us has passion. We all have dreams. We all have a God-given talent. And if we would all decide as a group that we're not going to let this kill us, and that we're not going to pass it on, but we are going to live our life to the fullest. We're going to live it with zeal. We're going to savor it. We're going to attack life, so to speak. I couldn't keep it in. I knew that this was going to be a big platform, and so I shared it with America. My knees were buckling. They were shaking the whole time, but the feedback I've gotten has made it all worth it.
Speaking of that God-given talent, is it possible for you to share a little bit of that with us today?
Sure. Wow.
A little something,
How about, sure. All right. Goodness, I did not have anything ready. I'll do a little, It's My Life. That's
okay.
This ain't a song for the broken hearted. No silent prayer for faith departed. Now I ain't gonna be just a face in the crowd. Gonna hear my voice when I shout it out loud. 'Cause it's my life and it's now or never. I ain't gonna live forever. I just wanna live while I'm alive.
Oh my goodness. That was amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that.
It's been my pleasure.
And thank you so much for stopping by today.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
We're greater than AIDS.
Indeed we are. Today we talk with celebrities who, through their actions, show us what it means to be greater than AIDS. Will you join them? Everybody can play a part in this. To learn more about the Greater Than AIDS movement and what you can do, go to greaterthan.org or check us out on Facebook by searching Greater Than AIDS.